You have to consider Mel Gibson as one of the greatest living action stars in the entire world. He's done so many great films over the years, and I'm not just talking about in front of the camera, but also behind it. I decided to look at some of my favorite Mel Gibson action movies, and I had a small caveat. These action films had to be historical in nature. If you think he hasn't made very many beyond Braveheart, then you're wrong. I'm going to tell you some of my favorite. In 1981, Mel Gibson did a movie called Attack Force Z. In it, Mel and a group of Aussie commandos launch a secret mission against the Japanese force. It also stars the always amazing Sam Neill. Also in 1981, Mel Gibson starred in the film Gallipoli. It tells the story of an epic campaign in Turkey during World War I. The characters are purely fictional, but the craziness that happened during the long campaign were all too real for the Australian forces involved. In 1984, Mel Gibson starred in the film The Bounty. A few years after Mel's busy year in 81, he starred alongside Anthony Hopkins and Laurence Olivier in the story of the mutiny on board the HMS Bounty. This movie holds a special place in my heart, as it was one of my favorite books as a kid. The film also features Daniel Day-Lewis and Liam Neeson. In 1990, Mel Gibson starred alongside Robert Downey Jr. in a movie called Air America. The two are involved in a CIA operation over Vietnam and Laos, transporting everything from soldiers to food to opium. In 1990, in what could only be considered as a very unexpected role for Gibson, Mel stars as the vengeful Hamlet in the classic Shakespearean tale that has been told countless times. I actually enjoyed this take on it more than many of the other actors who played the role, especially if you watch it before Lethal Weapon Marathon. In what I would easily call one of my favorite Mel Gibson roles, he plays the gambling gunslinger Brett Maverick in the 1994 film Maverick. The film also stars Jodie Foster, Alfred Molina, and the original Brett Maverick, James Garner. You may have heard of this movie before. In 1995, Mel Gibson starred as William Wallace in the film Braveheart. Even though the historical accuracy is on par with Superman the movie, Braveheart had enough slayings, horse killings, and amazing Scottish accents for the awards people to overlook that and give the film Best Picture. In case you were wondering, no one kills more British soldiers than Mel Gibson. So in the year 2000, he starred in the film The Patriot. This movie is almost exactly like Braveheart, only it's an American during the Revolutionary War instead of a Scottishman. I still love it. There are very few war movies that feature a guy getting tomahawked in the forehead that I don't enjoy. Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore. He leads his group of young and inexperienced soldiers in a battle alongside the manliest man of all time, Sam Elliott. This film had enough heartfelt moments in it to make any military veteran shed a tear, and enough hardcore battles to get the attention of any war buffs. In 2004, Mel did not go in front of the screen, but he was behind the camera when he directed The Passion of the Christ. I'm not ashamed to admit that I cried like a little girl when I saw this movie for the first time. It's an unbelievable theatrical experience to see it on the big screen, and also one of the most financially successful films of all time. In 2006, Mel made the film Apocalypto. There aren't many movies that can star ethnic actors speaking ancient languages and still make piles and piles of money. Apocalypto has to be seen as a real tour de force for director Mel Gibson. There weren't many movies about the Mayan civilization, and I certainly didn't hear people clamoring for someone to make one. The final 30 minutes of the film remind me a lot of Predator, and no greater compliment could ever be given to a film. In 2016, Mel Gibson was back, not as Martin Riggs for another Lethal Weapon film, but behind the camera when he directed Hacksaw Ridge. Hacksaw Ridge is another World War II film about a conscientious objector who's also a medic and the first objector to win the Medal of Honor.